Welcome back to the deep dive. I always look forward to these year-end reports. And this one you sent over for 2024, it's packed with insights
Oh, yeah.
about economic trends, especially the equity and fixed income markets,
Right.
both here in India and globally. So,
This one is fascinating. I mean, it not only breaks down what happened, over the past year, but it also dives into the why,
the why.
which I think is so important for all of us trying to make sense of things.
Yeah.
Plus, it gives us some expert predictions for 2025.
Predictions, that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
Well, the report doesn't hold back. It jumps right in, calling 2024 a year of paradoxes
Yeah.
for the global economy. I mean, it was a roller coaster ride.
It really was.
For everyone. We saw central banks all over the world finally start to ease up on those interest rates.
Well, it was about time.
Yeah.
But that easing, even though, everyone was expecting it,
Right.
it actually created a whole new set of challenges.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. Huge currency fluctuations, right?
Yeah.
And each country kind of trying to forge its own path forward.
Right. So like a divergence in monetary policies.
Exactly. And then, to make things even more complicated,
Yeah.
we had all these geopolitical events, these unexpected twists and turns.
Like what? Remind me.
Well, the Bangladeshi prime minister resigned. There was martial law declared in South Korea.
Oh, right.
And the conflicts in Ukraine and between Israel and Hamas, those dragged on.
Yeah, those definitely added to the instability.
They did, and they had a ripple effect, too. Those events weren't just contained to their own regions.
Right.
They sent shockwaves through the global system, and that really fueled inflation.
Oh, I see, like a global domino effect?
Exactly. Now, here's something I found really interesting in the report.
Yeah, what's that?
It highlights this contrast between how the U.S. and non-U.S. stock markets performed.
Okay.
The U.S. markets actually ended up stronger, while the rest of the world kind of struggled. Yeah, Europe and Japan especially, they had a pretty tough year.
I'm curious, what do you make of that? Why the difference?
Well, the report suggests that the strength of the U.S. dollar played a big role,
Well, of course.
along with, just different levels of economic resilience across different regions.
Right.
But I think the key takeaway for our listeners here
Yeah.
is that diversification is absolutely crucial.
Diversification.
You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Good point. Now, let's shift gears a bit and bring it closer to home.
Okay.
Let's talk about India.
Yeah.
In the midst of all this global turmoil,
Right?
the report actually paints a really optimistic picture of the Indian economic landscape.
It does. The numbers are impressive.
Yep.
India's macroeconomic indicators are really strong, making it stand out on the global stage.
Oh, I like hearing that.
And one thing that really jumped out at me was the huge surge in equity issuances in India,
Okay.
like a 2.6-fold increase, hitting a record high.
2.6 times.
Yeah. That tells me there's a lot of confidence in India's growth potential.
That's a strong signal, for sure. And the report also mentioned a big jump in mutual fund assets too, right?
Right. People are putting their money where their hopes are.
That's great to hear.
It is. And it's not just luck.
Yeah.
The Indian government has been putting in the work, strategically rolling out these reforms.
Like what?
Well, one example is the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme, or PLI scheme.
The PLI scheme. Now, remind me, what is that again?
Right. So basically, it incentivizes companies to manufacture their products right here in India
Oh.
to boost domestic production,
Okay.
which not only, helps our economy grow, but also creates jobs and attracts foreign investment.
So it's a win-win.
Exactly.
And the government is also focusing on what? Tax collection and infrastructure spending as well?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's all part of this bigger strategy.
To make India a more attractive place for businesses to invest and grow.
So it seems like India is really setting itself up for success.
It really does.
This is all great news, but, we can't just focus on the positives. We
Yeah.
need to understand the challenges as well.
Absolutely. The report doesn't shy away from that. It dives into the potential risks and headwinds that India might face in 2025.
Okay, well, let's dive into those in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back after a short break. All right. So we're seeing all this positive momentum in the Indian economy, but what does it actually mean, for 2025? What can we expect?
Yeah, well, the report tries to answer that very question
Yeah.
using all its analysis from 2024, to kind of paint a picture of what the future might hold.
A crystal ball. Okay, so what's it saying? What should listeners be looking out for?
Well, first of all, inflation, it's expected to ease in 2025,
Good.
which is, good news for everyone.
Well,
but
yeah.
But the report does say this easing might take a little longer than usual.
Why is that?
Well, a couple of
Right.
factors,
Yeah.
like high household savings in the U.S., for example, they can have a ripple effect on global demand, and then tight labor markets around the world, that can also slow things down a bit.
So it's not going to be an overnight fix.
Right. Exactly.
But even with those potential challenges, the report is still pretty optimistic about Indian equities, right? I mean, we were just talking about all those positive indicators.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the report is very bullish on Indian equities for 2025. And it has some good reasons for that, too.
Like what? What's making them so confident?
Well, for one, corporate and bank balance sheets, those are looking really solid.
Okay.
Consumer spending, that's remained pretty resilient.
Good.
And then the government, with their growth-oriented policies, they're creating a really positive environment for businesses.
Right. And don't forget all those supply chain shifts that are happening globally,
Oh, that's right.
with companies wanting to diversify their manufacturing and sourcing.
Yeah,
India is in a prime position to capitalize on all of that.
you got it. Now, of course, the report does mention some potential challenges.
Oh, yeah, there's always challenges.
Things like fluctuating foreign portfolio investments or FPIs, and then the possibility of a global economic slowdown. We can't rule that out.
Okay, those are definitely things to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Those are factors that could throw a wrench in the works.
But even with those risks, the report makes a pretty compelling case for why large cap stocks, in particular, might do really well in 2025. I found that really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And it's especially relevant, if you're thinking about your own investment portfolio.
Yeah.
The report basically says that large caps are kind of due for a comeback.
Oh,
They're currently at their smallest share of market capitalization, in recent history.
so there's room for growth.
Exactly. And their valuations, those are looking pretty attractive right now.
Mm.
Plus, historically, there's been this strong correlation between FFPI flows and large cap performance. So if those flows pick up, which the report thinks is likely,
Okay.
large caps could see some significant upside potential.
This is incredibly helpful information. I mean, for anyone trying to navigate the Indian stock market. But the report doesn't stop there, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It goes on to explore the fixed income market outlook, which is a whole other beast.
Yeah, fixed income.
Yeah.
A whole other world.
So what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What should they be thinking about?
Well, the fixed income landscape, it's really influenced by all those global economic forces we talked about earlier,
That's all connected.
It is, and the report does a good job of connecting the dots and making it relevant to our listeners.
I like that. So break it down for us. What's happening in the world of fixed income?
All right, so the report looks at how the 10-year government bond yield went up and down throughout 2024.
Up and down like a roller coaster, right?
Pretty much.
Right.
And it points to things like FII flows and those expectations of rate easing,
Okay.
as major drivers. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The Indian bond market, it actually remained pretty stable compared to its global counterparts. Yeah. Which is quite remarkable considering all the volatility we saw elsewhere.
So it's like India's got this internal gyroscope or something, keeping it steady.
Exactly. And the report attributes that stability to a couple of key factors.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, strong domestic demand for bonds. That acts like a buffer, against those external shocks.
Oh, so like a safety net.
Right. And then second, the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, they've been very measured and cautious with their monetary policy, which helps to create more predictability in the market.
Predictability. That's always good, especially in times of uncertainty.
Absolutely. But it's not just government bonds that are doing well.
No.
The report also talks about how corporate bond spreads have been narrowing.
No, I always forget. What are corporate bond spreads again?
Right. So they basically tell you how much more risky it is to lend money to a company compared to the government.
Okay.
And the fact that those spreads are narrowing, well, that's a good sign.
Okay.
It means investors are feeling more confident about India's corporate sector.
So it's like a vote of confidence for Indian businesses.
Exactly. And
Oh.
that's a positive sign for economic growth overall.
And then there's the whole green bond thing that caught my eye.
Oh, yeah, green bonds.
It seems like India is really stepping up when it comes to sustainable development, right?
Absolutely. And it's attracting investors who are looking to align their money with their values.
So it's not just about making money, it's about making a positive impact as well.
Precisely.
I like that. But, with all this talk about bonds and yields and spreads, it can get a little overwhelming.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So for our listeners who might be thinking, okay, what does this all actually mean for me? What's the bottom line? What should they be doing with this information?
Well, the report suggests that longer duration debt funds might be particularly attractive in the current environment.
Longer duration bonds. Okay, why is that?
A few reasons. The government is expected to borrow less in the coming year, which means more demand for other types of bonds.
Supply and demand, right?
It's exactly less supply, more demand, potentially higher prices.
Okay.
Plus, there's a good chance that Indian bonds will be included in those big global indices, which could attract a flood of foreign investment, further boosting demand.
So Indian bonds are becoming more appealing on the global stage.
They are. And let's not forget, India's stable macroeconomic environment, that makes it a relatively safe haven in a world that's still facing a lot of uncertainty,
So for investors who want that balance of risk and return, Indian bonds might be worth a look, especially those longer duration bonds.
Right, but we can't forget about sectors.
Yes, let's talk sectors. The report breaks down even further, looking at how specific sectors are performing and what their outlook might be for 2025.
Exactly.
So which sectors are standing out?
Well, healthcare and real estate, those were the stars of 2024.
Oh, really?
Yeah, healthcare saw this surge in growth, probably fueled by the increasing demand for, quality medical services.
Makes sense. People are living longer, more focused on wellness, and India's got this rapidly growing middle class who are demanding better healthcare.
You got it. And real estate, well, India's urbanization is happening so fast, more people moving to cities. So the demand for housing and office space is just skyrocketing.
Yeah, it's a construction boom. So both healthcare and real estate, they're riding this wave of growth driven by demographics and lifestyle changes.
Exactly. But remember, past performance doesn't guarantee future results.
Right.
So what does the report say about their prospects for 2025? Well, it's still positive, suggesting that their strong performance is likely to continue.
Okay.
But it does inject a dose of realism, pointing out that some sectors, like the auto industry, for example, they might see some moderation in growth.
So healthcare and real estate, full speed ahead, but the auto industry might tap the brakes a bit.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Why is that? Why the potential slowdown in auto sales?
Well, the report points to a few things, including the possibility of, a global economic slowdown.
Right, that would definitely impact consumer spending.
And when people are worried about their finances, those big-ticket purchases, like cars, they often get put on hold.
Makes sense. Any other sectors that jumped out at you?
Yeah, the IT sector, which had a really good year in 2024, it's predicted to have more of a neutral outlook in 2025.
Oh, interesting.
And that could be due to potential improvements in the U.S. economy.
How so?
Well, if the U.S. economy strengthens, that could shift demand patterns for IT services,
Oh, I see. So it's like a ripple effect. What happens in one part of the world can impact industries across continents.
Exactly. It's all interconnected. But let's not forget about infrastructure.
Oh, yeah. Infrastructure. We were just talking about that earlier. The government's focus on development.
Right. And the report is very bullish on infrastructure, citing healthy public spending as a major driver.
And that spending is creating opportunities in related sectors too, right? Like construction, transportation, and of course, renewable energy.
Yeah, the report specifically mentions a bright future for companies involved in the energy transition.
This is a global megatrend, and India is well positioned to be a leader in this space.
Agreed.
What about the financial sector? Any insights there?
Yeah, the report suggests that the banking sector in particular might be one to watch.
Why is that?
Well, it points to attractive valuations, relative to the sector's growth potential.
That makes sense. I mean, as the Indian economy grows, banks play a crucial role in providing credit and facilitating investments.
Right. They're the backbone of the economy.
And with corporate and bank balance sheets in good shape, there's a solid foundation for the sector to do well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, for the average consumer, the report highlights the FMCG sector, fast-moving consumer goods, as one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, those companies that cater to India's growing consumer base, they could offer some interesting opportunities.
Okay, so lots of potential bright spots, but what about the flip side? Are there any sectors that investors should be cautious about?
Yeah, the report does have a negative outlook for metals.
Oh, why is that?
Primarily due to slowing global growth, especially in China, which is a major consumer of metals.
Okay, so that's a potential headwind for that sector.
It is, and this highlights the importance of diversification.
Right. Spreading your investments across different assets and sectors to manage risk.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been so informative. I mean, we've covered so much ground.
We have.
From the global economic outlook to specific sector trends. But I think it's important to connect all of this back to our listeners' lives,
Absolutely.
Because it's easy to get lost in the numbers and charts.
Yeah.
But these economic trends, they have a real impact on our everyday decisions.
They do. They really do.
For example, let's say you're thinking about buying a home.
Okay.
Well, the report's insights into the real estate sector, those can help you decide if now is a good time to buy, or if you should maybe wait a little bit.
Or if you're planning for retirement. Understanding how the fixed income market might perform, that can help you make smarter choices about your investments.
Right, so it's not just about making money, it's about securing your financial future.
Exactly.
It's about having the knowledge and the confidence to make informed decisions.
And to be an active participant in your financial journey.
I like that. Not just a passive observer, but an active participant.
Right, taking control of your finances.
So we explored a lot of information today, global trends, Indian economy, sector outlooks, and it's all connected to those real-world decisions we all have to make.
It is. It's all connected.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key questions, that you think our listeners should be thinking about? What should they be pondering?
Well, given India's resilience and its incredible growth potential, one question that comes to mind is, how do you see India's role in the global economy evolving over the next decade?
That's a good one.
Will it continue to be this bright spot, attracting investment and shaping the future of key industries?
That's a question worth pondering. Yeah, I mean, with India's economy growing like this, it's bound to have an impact globally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not just about India's own growth, though. It's how that growth kind of ripples outward, affecting global trends, creating opportunities.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, like that energy transition we talked about, right?
Yeah.
India's investing so much in renewables. It could totally shift the dynamics of global energy markets, maybe even change the balance of power, influence energy prices worldwide.
It's like India's becoming this major player on the world stage.
It is. It really is. And think about India's middle class, too.
Oh, right. They're growing rapidly.
Yeah. And as their purchasing power goes up, that's going to reshape global consumption.
So India's influencing trends on a global scale now.
Exactly. It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
Yeah, it really is. It's like we're witnessing this economic transformation in real time.
And that's what makes economics so fascinating, It's not just numbers and charts. It's understanding how all these forces interact and shape our world.
Yeah, it's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture.
Right, and how those trends affect all of us.
So with this deep dive, we're not just watching it happen, we're understanding it.
We're gaining insights, so we can make better decisions.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot today, from the global outlook to sector-specific trends. But I think the key is to connect all of this back to, our everyday lives.
Absolutely.
Because this isn't just theoretical, right? This stuff matters.
It affects everyone.
So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you check out those high-growth sectors we discussed? Maybe add some to your portfolio?
Or perhaps explore those longer duration bonds, Take advantage of India's stability.
The point is, you've got the information now.
Knowledge is power.
You can make smarter choices, navigate the economic landscape with more confidence.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, there's always more to learn.
Keep exploring, stay curious.
And we'll be here to help you along the way, right?
Absolutely.
So on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead of the curve.
Until next time.